Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. Does your Fuso fuel tank vent look like this? That's nasty. Let's change that out. Fuel tank vent, part number MB390572. And this is what it's supposed to look like. Notice the top is not corroded off. Inside, there's a little valve, freely moves back and forth. Not so on the one on my tank. So what are we going to need to get this job done? Well, aside from the valve, I'm going to recommend if it looks anything like mine, you start with a wire brush to clean all the crust off. After we've wire brushed it, as we're unscrewing it, I'm going to use a blowgun and continually blow any debris off as it gets unscrewed because I don't want it to fall into the tank. Now, as for unscrewing, if yours isn't very corroded, you probably want a 22mm wrench. That's what fits the new one. If it's extremely corroded, you may need to get a set of ice grips out. But that should be about it. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. So here we have one very crusty fuel tank vent. As you can see in the top, this piece is supposed to be inside the other cap. A little bit better view here. This cap on the top here protects the valve that actually is supposed to be what you hear moving up and down there is this little piece here. And as you can see, it does not move up and down very well. So what that means is this tank is likely not able to draw air in easily when it's consuming fuel and not easy to push air out when it's being expanded by the sun because it is a black tank. So what we want to do is remove this whole assembly. It's from here up. This is the tank. And then thread the new one in. I'm not 100% sure what's going on at the bottom here, but I'm going to add one more tool into my list of tools, and that's a pick. And I'm going to see if this crust around the bottom is probably, I'm thinking, some form of thread sealant that we want to get rid of. So this is just a little bit more aggressive than the wire brush would be to start with. And I think you can understand now why I wanted to have the air blow gun, because I don't want all this stuff dropping into the tank as I start unscrewing it. So once we get, I feel like a dentist scraping your teeth here. Once we get the majority of this crust off, we'll give it a quick blow. 3, 2, 1, here we go. So it looks like this one was actually put in with pipe tape. I can see the Teflon tape around the edge there. And so that crust that was all around there was likely all aluminum oxide. This assembly here is aluminum, and I can see from about here down to here, it's actually corroded away, which is why I have a feeling I may need device grips, because I think the flats that I'm going to be using, let's add one more tool. The flats that I'm going to be trying to put the wrench on are half gone. So there may not be enough surface area to get a wrench to actually turn this part. But we'll see. Another quick blow. So let's number one see if the wrench is going to fit and be able to grab. So again, 22mm wrench. That's quite loose on there because of how much material's been lost, but let's see. Oh, that's not bad. It's not in there that tight. Right? That's easier than I was expecting it to be. Okay. This is going to go quite well then, he said too early in the process. As I screw this out, you can see there are little chunks falling on the top of the tank, and this is what I want to avoid falling into the tank. Okay, that's loose enough I can turn it by hand. So I'm just going to give a quick couple blows on this area as I turn it, just to keep that debris away from the top of the tank. Okay. So we are now open top of the tank. I don't want to blow any more because I don't want to knock any debris in. So before we put the new fitting in, what we want to do is put some sealant on the threads. This appears to be a tapered thread like NPT. I suspect it's NPT. So I'm using Loctite 567. You can use Teflon tape. This is kind of just a liquid version of that. And all we need is just enough. What we're doing here is actually lubricating the threads, not sealing them. NPT threads seal themselves. It's a taper. What we're doing with the lubrication on there is allowing it to go in far enough that it actually gets tight enough to seal the threads. Reinstallation is quite obviously very simple. With the pipe dope on there, we're going to thread it back in. 22mm wrench. Try not to stick it into the pipe dope all over the place, or you'll make your wrench nice and messy. I would say that is done. Now we can get the rest of the debris off the top of the tank. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I highly recommend you take a look at your fuel tank vent, and if it looks anything like this crusty, nasty, horrible one, just order a new one. They're easy to get, they don't cost very much, they take a couple minutes to change out. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you think it'll help someone, send it over to them. If you like that video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe, and we'll see you next time because there's lots more to do. Thanks for watching.